It's your boy Davey from Vaabs Podcast.
Also Vaabs.
We are here at Real Global Productions. I am joined by our beautiful Vibe controller, DJ D Dooley, and to my right, the beautiful host, Captain Lebrozo.
Hello, how's it? It's Lebs. How you doing? Davey?
Special episode tonight.
It's a massive episode tonight. Tonight in the studio, we have the progressive Afro House duo who began their joint project in early 2018 and have already cemented themselves as serious game players in the music industry. Born in South Africa, raised in Botswana, and also growing up in Australia, these boys have traveled about as much as their music has sent them to in the past few years as well. With releases on Mo Black Records, currently partnering with Paradise Worldwide, starting their own record label, Sippy Time Records, from Tel Aviv to LA to Tulum and many, many more places. Now here for their 2-month-long South African tour across the whole of Joburg, Cape Town, and also Durban as well, ladies and gents. We got the fine boys in the studio. Craig
Yeah,
and
what's up,
Dazza.
guys? Yeah, I'm Darren.
I'm Craig.
And we're fine.
Thanks for having us, boys.
Yeah, we're so happy to be here.
Oh, thank you.
We love the podcast.
Nothing on. Otherwise, how you guys? How you been?
We're doing excellent. You know, it's the end of we've been here a week already, so well over the jet lag, feeling excellent, feeling energized, and most importantly, we feel really inspired. You know, like we've been, I guess, producing Afro House and playing Afro House for a long time, but it's our first time in the motherland. You know, so it's like it's a different type of energy that you just don't get overseas.
Yeah, 100%. That was one of the questions we wanted to ask later, but maybe now it would be best time. But describe the vibe of a genre like Afro House overseas versus now you've at least played like your first gigs here versus in South Africa. Like, how's the difference between the two?
I think, you know, because Afro House is quite a niche genre, it tends to attract people that love Afro House.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter if you're playing overseas or if you're playing over here. A lot of the time, once you get to a certain level, people are coming for your sound or your Afro House sound. So the vibes are still epic, but you know, there is something special about being in South Africa. There's a warmth that you have. It doesn't matter if you're in the club or if you're in a restaurant or a bar or whatever. Everyone is just so warm and buzzing, and you feel good. You know, when you get up there and you know you're going to play banger Afro, you love the fact that you're playing to a crowd that has this warmth and this buzz. So it's a good feeling.
I think it's beautiful because, like I say now, especially they pumping Afro. Like everywhere you go, you're almost guaranteed to hear Afro.
Yeah,
Afro,
for sure.
100%.
all over the country as well. Like, it's not only like a worldwide like phenomenon breaking forward, but also like within the country as well. You can feel it. Like between Amapiano and Janos, like it's not Janos, same thing.
Yeah.
Amapiano and Afro House.
I mean, I think that everywhere you go, like we were walking in Santon City today, and like literally they were playing Amapiano on the sound system in Santon City, and I was like, geez, I've never heard this before. Like you go anywhere else in Europe, you're hearing, you know, the top 2,000,
Dua Lipa,
you know, the
everywhere.
same thing that's been playing years and years. Whereas here, I'm like, I was head bouncing at Mug and Bean today, and I was like, you know, I was like, I should Shazam this, you know?
Yeah,
That's even like you go into Total Sports and then they just play Janos
Yo,
hardcore.
That's wild.
I just want to buy new Nikes. But in terms of your guys' journey, I feel like you started your joint project last year in March. Walk us through what that was like. Where did you have to come from to both look at each other as brothers and be like, hey, maybe we should just make music together. Maybe we should just...
Yeah, it was actually before March. So we've been doing this now since, I'd say 2018. Pursuing it as a professional career, or at least having the intention to make it a career. It started off, we were living in Europe and we had just moved there and we were in Tel Aviv. And basically, Craig started DJing first, actually. So
I was
Craig...
even going to ask who actually picked up the decks.
Yeah, so we can take even a step further back. I'd say from the age of 7 or 8, I decided one day I want to pick up the drums. And my mum and dad were like, absolutely not. If you want to play the drums, you've failed to pursue so many other things that we've basically...
Yeah.
We've given
You
you
need to
so
buy
many
your own
things,
drum
and if
kit.
you wanna play the drums, like you got to use your own money, my
I'm
boy.
not
and you
raising
gotta
a
buy.
rebel kind of thing.
Yeah, so I said, okay, sure, let's take the whole bank account, whatever it was, and I bought a drum set, and I've never looked back since. I was doing, the drums since 7. He picked up a keyboard at the same time. We were having music lessons, and then that kind of progressed. Moved to Australia in 2012 after living 12 years in Botswana. We were in the school bands, the jazz bands, all that sort of stuff. And then in 2018, we finished studying. We both did a business degree at different universities, and we went overseas, and it was like the first time, let's say, exploring the world, if that's one way of putting it. And we, went to a nightclub, and basically it was like a coming of age or like kind of like light bulb moment where I was like, holy moly, like this DJ and all these people in the room, like this vibe is 100% being controlled by the man behind the decks. And I just said, I was like, I want to do this.
I want to be
I want to be the vibe.
Bearing in mind, we grew up in Botswana, right?
Yeah.
So at the time, we didn't really have nightclubs or anything like that. Like we were in Botswana when they got an escalator for the first time, right? And there was a queue for people to stand on the escalator because we didn't have like a theme park or roller coasters. And they, you know, everyone thought it was like a roller coaster. So like we weren't exposed to like this international like nightlife scene. But when we experienced it, we're like, damn, this is really exciting. And because our best friend at the time used to manage one of the big clubs and Craig got into DJing, he's like, well, you guys should start playing at the clubs. Like, I'll book you guys. And that's where it all started. And, you know, fast forward, like we were there for like 2 years and we ended up playing a bunch of shows. And then when we left, we were like, this is what we want to do.
What'd you guys start on? What genre?
It's
always been Afro.
It's always been
Yeah.
Afro.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Always.
So we first fell in love with Afro actually back in I'm pretty sure it was 2017 or 2016. It was either one of those years, but you know, we had been coming to South Africa since we moved to Australia in 2012. We used to come every year for about 5 years straight, and we always did Cape Town.
Yeah.
And one year, we wanted to go watch Black Coffee at Shimmy Beach Club.
Oh.
And I still have the video on my phone somewhere. I'll show you guys after this podcast. But, you know, I'll never forget being in that environment and watching Black Coffee on stage. And I'm pretty sure that Black Motion played just before him because I remember the live drums and everything like that. And I was like, you can't, like, I don't know what genre this is at the time. We didn't know that it was Afro, but I was like, this is a really awesome genre. And that's really where it sparked our love for Afro house music.
Yeah, it's always so weird that you go through that because you're like, I don't know what this genre is, but I really, really like it. And it's like, I need to find out what it actually is. So that was us with Deep House as well. Back when we were younger, it was like, this
It's all
is
about the vibes.
beautiful genre. I need to
Yeah.
find out more about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And you guys obviously being or growing up overseas, not necessarily in South Africa. I know we spoke about it a little bit this weekend, but like trying to keep your sound authentic to like Africa and like Afro house and all of those kinds of things. Do you guys, is that something that like plays on your mind a lot? Because I mean, after watching your set, I can see that if it's something you don't consider, you guys do it very well either way.
I mean, thank you, first of all. Honestly, it sounds kind of crazy, but we are obsessed about Afro house. Like, we are the definition of obsessed. If you look at our Spotify playlist, most people have some pop, R&B. It's just Afro house. You know, so like, it's not hard to keep it authentic because we fell in love with the sound years ago, and we've been experiencing Afro around the world, and that's obviously influenced us to a certain extent. But like, we remember the vibes from, you know, watching Black Coffee at Shimmy at the time, which is now Cabo Beach Club. And like, that's a memory that like quite often when we're producing, we're like, could we see Black Coffee playing this song? If the answer is no, maybe we need to tweak something, you know, a bit. Not that we're producing just to satisfy Black Coffee, but you know, it's like, we just remember how good the vibes were and what those authentic sounds were like. And that's what inspires us.
I think, at least for me, one way that I like to describe it is pure authentic Afro house, because I think there is a difference between the Afro house that comes from other parts of the world versus South Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were going to say, because it's like, how did it feel to come back to SA and be able to play now these big events as an Afro house duo kind of thing, and to be able to like put your stand on it?
It's very special. I mean, I actually got a little bit emotional on the decks the other night. Like, it was kind of like it hit me that I was actually here.
Yeah.
You know, it's been something we've wanted to do for a long time, and we've worked with a lot of South African vocalists in the Afro house scene that are really well known. So, you know, the likes of, you know, Lizwi, Bukeka, Nomvula, who we were just with for lunch today. We've done a track with Idaziz. As you guys know, it's already out, Kidonda, but he's still from Africa, right? So I think it's not so much about South Africa specifically, but rather just Africa, where the whole genre of Afro, Afro-tech, Afrobeat came from. It's just so cool to actually be here and to see people in the flesh, like really vibing with what we're doing. You know, it's one thing to do it overseas, but it's another thing to get the buy-in of the people here.
That's the thing, yeah, nothing must be better than playing your song on decks and then literally everyone losing their mind. Like, that must be a beautiful feeling inside.
Yeah. Even if you think about it, like, a lot of the time our tracks have African lyrics. So of course, like a melody can resonate with an audience, but you know, I'm sure that just because of the fact that a lot of people can understand the lyrics in South Africa, that they vibe with the track a lot more than if we're playing the exact same song overseas where they don't understand what the meaning of the words is. You know, so just simple stuff like that, I'm sure it does make a difference.
100%.
What is your guys' process when you start like making tracks? Does it come from like a just a whim or an idea, or are you just sitting there like, hey, we're not coming out of this room until we have a banger? Oh, like, how's it work?
I mean, I guess we can both comment. Maybe I'll start.
I was waiting for him to start answering the question.
We try not to even think, to be honest.
Really?
Like, we literally sit there and we try not think about anything. We always start with, we need groove. Like, we never will start with piano chords, to be honest. Like, we always just start with a kick and some percussion, and we try to get a groove going, especially from the low end, which I think is maybe something that's kind of overlooked sometimes. Like, even our bass and our sub, like, there's a groove. And then it's like building a puzzle. Honestly, there's no like one set approach. You change and you adapt and you try something different until you feel like the puzzle comes together. And you just keep like, whatever you can latch onto as inspiration, you just latch onto it. And that's it.
That's beautiful.
Craig, you feel the same?
Yeah, I mean, you know, for me, coming from a percussion background, when I'm thinking about a track, I'm usually thinking about percussion first. You know, so I'm thinking, okay, you know, we've got a kick going, what type of groove? And we usually just start with like either a loop that, you know, inspires kind of the groove, or we just take a, you know, whatever one shot sample thing comes to mind and just start fiddling around until we go, okay, I like how this is kind of grooving. And then we usually latch onto that groove and kind of build around it. You know, so like, you know, we would often take 5, 6, 7 other percussions and go, you know, how many polyrhythms can we create that will still drive the groove forward and help it bounce? And then eventually it gets to a point like where you're, okay, I can now feel the groove. I can get a sense of it. Now you go, okay, what bass comes to mind? Or, you know, does a melody come to mind? And there's no right or wrong way to produce. At the end of the day, creativity comes from all different places. And it's just about how you feel in that room in that moment that will influence what we actually put down on the track.
100%.
That's very nice. Have you guys noticed any changes that you had since you started making music when like you first started and now? Like, has it kind of sped up the process, or is it just you kind of know what to look out for?
Yeah. If anything, actually, I'm going to jump in here. I actually think our process has slowed down, and I mean that in a good way. You know, the more experienced producers we've become, the more you start to think about music in a different way, like a 4-dimensional box. That's a way we always talk about it actually in our own time is, you know, every sound needs to fit into this 4-dimensional box. So when we're actually creating and working and processing all these different sounds, we're constantly thinking about it more from like a scientific perspective. So like this frequency and, hey, where do we want this to sit in the mix? And it's become much more of an art, so to speak, as opposed to just throwing some stuff down and going, oh yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. And you become more critical as well, because you're always looking to like do something different, push the boundaries. And so maybe compared to like 2 years ago where we would have called it done at a certain point, now we're kind of like, okay, no, we need to go the extra mile. You know, how do you keep pushing the boundaries of what you're doing, basically?
And also it's about being objective as well. I think objectivity is something that's super important just for any person in the creative space, where you're constantly questioning, hey, is this really the best that I can do? And approaching it from a non-emotional place of going, hey, let me look at it from a complete outsider's perspective. Is this really a good groove? Is this really a good melody? You know, as opposed to just because you make it, you go, oh no, this is perfect.
I think it's actually so cool that you guys have that, because a lot of the producers that we used to speak to, and also a few of my friends, they're very early in the game, and it's like they would be like, I need to finish this track, otherwise I'm going to hate it if I keep listening to it. Kind of thing. So it's exactly what you're saying. It's like I've slowed down. You have to put yourself in that space where it's like there's a chance I could hate it, but I'm going to be objective. I'm going to try fix it. And
yeah, just to comment on that, like I'll give you a great example. Some of our earlier tracks, they were a little bit more on the melodic house side, right? And looking back, it's because we got stuck in lockdown in Australia, in Melbourne, and we weren't playing shows at the time. So I don't think we realized that like what we were making was a little bit probably more melodic house than what we would make today. And it's taken us a while to put out new songs and basically shift the focus of our Spotify so that it's now more Afro focused. So the takeaway of that is that you really have to think twice about what you put out, because once it's out, it's really difficult to, you know, unrelease it, so to speak. You know, it's there and it tells a story, and people paint a picture of you based on what they see on your social media, your Spotify, all of those kind of things.
Forget you heard that song.
That actually answers my next question, which was going to be, you guys on Sunday played 5 of your new releases in your set. So my question was, why not? Where does the lull come in releasing those kinds of songs? Like, do you want to play test them first, see how people vibe out to them, or is it you just want to kind of hold it back for a bigger project that we could expect anytime soon? Or
No, we're for sure releasing those tracks. The tracks are coming out, right? But basically, you've always got the option of, do you release like a bunch of tracks as an EP or an album, or do you release them as singles? And our plan moving forward is to release them as singles, because when you release, you can only pitch one song on the back end of Spotify, as an example. So if you put out 5 songs in one go, you can only pitch one of them for Spotify editorial. So strategically, if you do them as singles, you can pitch each song every single time, and you can also drip feed the audience, so to speak. So instead of giving your best 5 songs in one go, you can split it up, which is what we're going to do over the next couple months. So at least we've got tracks coming out for the rest of the year. Like, we've already got tracks scheduled till middle of next year. And then at least there's no pressure, like to jump in a studio and make a hit, so to speak, because we have leeway. And that's why we string them out.
Just to add on to that, another thing that we're personally doing is that for every single that goes out, there's always a really well-established artist within the genre that's doing a remix for it as well. So it's an opportunity to really give that track an opportunity to shine, number one, but then, to combine that with a really solid remix from a well-respected artist, I think is going to give us much more longevity, and I think it feels a lot more authentic because we're not rushing these releases. We're not rushing these releases.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, we may do, I'm sure at some point we will do an album, but that would be more of like a statement in our mind to like do an album.
I think it's as well, it's like Spotify and like the world, the way it's moving now is it's so fast paced that it's like albums and things. It's like people want that instant gratification. They move on from things. So it's like, I think it's a lot smarter to release the singles because it's like, it's not a full commitment. So he has 5 songs and everyone's like, oh, cool, I listen to him. It's like, no, listen to them, space them out. You must enjoy it.
I feel like the album has to come when you're a bit more established. Like, of course, we could do it right now if we want, but like, there's certain albums like, Black Coffee's Subconsciously album, that if he wasn't established and you then put out 10 songs, like it just might not carry that much weight. So that's why I think we're going to like hold off until we're, even more established and then look to do like an album.
But also don't forget with that album specifically, every one of those songs was actually released as a single and they were already out. And then the whole album was released with all of them on anyways, if I'm not mistaken. So,
Can always do that.
And the other thing about an album as well, I think an album, at least to me, an album is one of those things where you might have 1 or 2 amazing tracks and the other ones are still good, but they're just not as amazing as the other ones. Whereas, if you put an album out and literally every single track is a hit, then none of them are going to really feel that special if they're all basically on the same level in terms of quality.
Yeah, 100%.
There's pros and cons
Yeah.
to everything. Yeah.
Do you have any tunes that you think to yourself, like, this has to be tucked away until the album, or like you guys just release as...
I think we're really focused on building our brand globally, and in doing so, we want to put out the best quality music that we can physically make. And because we know that we're always going to be working on music, we don't need to hold on to anything. Sure, I'm sure at some point there's going to be a track that, we maybe don't release for a long period of time. But in saying that, like our new track, Norma Timber, that's coming out on the 26th, we produced 2 years ago.
No.
Before The Light even came out, we had already produced Norma Timber with Lizwy.
No.
And it's been our most requested ID for the last 2 years in any show that we've played. And it's only coming out now. So it's not like we're strategically trying to hold on to it. It's just when it feels like it's right to release the music, it will go out. It's not dictated by anything else, just when it feels right.
And then it must be so nice as well to have your own record label now. To be like, okay, now we can kind of dictate when these things go out and how everything works. How does it work,
for sure.
setting it up? Like,
so we're very lucky. We got introduced to Paradise Worldwide, who's a big distributor. And we've got a team around us that has experience. And so working with our team and then working with the Paradise guys, we collectively work together to launch Sippy Time. And at least now we have an outlet where we have full control over the process from start to finish, which allows us to release tracks when we want and with whichever artists we want. And so we're really excited about the fact that we have a separate outlet to now release our music. which will then also attract other artists that resonate with our sound. And we'd love to be a new home for the authentic Afro house sound, but something that's innovative and edgy and, you know, pushing the boundaries. And that's what we'd really love to like cement as a place in the industry for a sound like that.
That's beautiful.
Did the record or the idea of having your own record label, was it kind of like from the start where you knew like, okay, there's going to be a point where we're going to want to control everything, so we need to like build up to that? Or was it almost like along with the journey you were like, hey, maybe as well?
Yeah, you know, it's an interesting one. I think one of the biggest drivers for wanting to have our own record label has actually stemmed from some of the experiences that we've had dealing with other labels, you know, on our journey so far. You know, we're used to having control in pretty much everything we do. Every country we've moved to, every job we've done, everything we've done has been on our terms. And, you know, we just wanted to have control over what our release schedule looked like above everything else. We wanted to be able to have a platform that really resonated with the sound that we were producing. And it's not that other labels don't, but we just have a personal pride. We have a lot of pride involved in how our music goes out, the outlets that it goes out to, all the PR, the marketing, basically everything that goes around it. We just want to be able to represent that song in the best possible way. And we felt that we were doing ourselves a disjustice if we didn't have our own record label, because we couldn't do all those things that we took so much pride in.
Sure. I feel like it's so hectic because obviously you guys have this, like, it's just a lot of spheres that you have to deal with at once. It's like almost the passion being music is like there's so many other aspects that come into play that you kind of are forced to deal with for you to be able to do music the way that you want and on your own terms.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're experiencing, and it's probably a side of the industry which a lot of people don't, if you're not in music, you probably don't understand. But like there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that requires time, you know. So it's production, it's every time you do a release, there might be 3 or 4 different like outlets that are requesting you to do an interview. You know, you actually have to take the time to do those interviews and write those responses. Or now that we're running a label, you know, we're using in-flight to send out tracks ahead of time to DJs. We're writing all the blurbs that we send out, you know. So it's a lot of little small moving pieces that you have to think about that you maybe don't think about, that all these little things add up. So it becomes pretty full on, but like we love music. So, you know, this is what we do. We wouldn't want to be doing anything else. Like we can't complain. We're doing what we love, which is what a lot of people would dream to do.
That's beautiful.
100%.
Have there been any like, not disadvantages, but have there been any like hard things that you didn't think would be a problem when you started it? Like for the label, like any undisclosed problems that came through? Or was it like at least been clear sailing?
To be honest, none. I mean, I think like if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? That's something that resonates with us quite a bit. So, you know, we give everything 150%, and we're really detailed and focused in what we do. And we also have a team that holds everyone accountable to a specific standard. So because there's been so much meticulous planning and preparation and time spent really like on doing things correctly, we've avoided any type of problem. In fact, the only problem that we've actually experienced is just a small issue on release day where it just showed on the wrong beatport profile. You know, and just for the music world, that happens on pretty much every release. There's always you can always expect some kind of small error like that to take place.
Yeah.
And for us, that was a really great outcome, all things considered, because everything else went smooth. And it's still going smooth. You know, we're prepared so much in advance, and I think that's the big thing is we're prepared, you know, 6 to 8 weeks in advance for the release. So like really like nothing should go wrong.
Yeah, 100%. And it's not only your own music that you guys want to release on the record label. Obviously, looking at other artists, you guys have like almost a mind map in your heads. You don't have to say it out loud, but a mind map in your heads of like people that you want to almost like work with, have.
Definitely. Yeah, for sure. I mean, we definitely want to build the label a bit first. We have artists in mind. There's some signed for next year as an example, but we're still in the building phase. But we definitely have a target list, so to speak, of people that we would love to just be associated, where Sippy Time becomes the central home for, you know, artists that we feel like resonate with what we're doing and the music that we're making.
That's beautiful.
I'm sure the SA tour is a bit of a scouting process as well. Then
They
like,
came for 2 months.
I mean, for sure. You know, I'm excited to meet artists that we don't even know exist.
Yeah.
You know, like I feel like until you're on the ground in South Africa, like you see maybe the top of the funnel kind of guys. I want to meet the real local OGs. You know, like that's how we can find some hidden talent, but also like just not do everything in a stock standard kind of way. You know, like there's no boundaries. You can probably tell by us, like there's no limitations. Like we're just here to enjoy the ride, and when we find hidden gems along the way, we'd love to support people and, you know, help grow the scene moving forward.
Which gigs are you guys like most excited to play? Like the ones that are like the heart dumpers? Because looking at it, there's a long list. Like you guys are playing while you're down here.
There's a long list, and it's still growing.
It is still growing. Of
Fabulous
course it's still
work.
growing.
No, listen, I mean, our tour has not been possible without Pablo. You guys in this room all know Pablo. He's sitting here with us now. He's an absolute legend. We can get into the story another time, you know.
Or later in the podcast.
Or later, but
whenever you guys want.
You know, he's an absolute legend, and thanks to him, if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be here. Going back to the question, though, about which gig we're most excited for, the one that stands out the most to me is definitely Rumours Festival on the 27th. It's probably going to be the biggest festival that we've played to date, and it may not be just in audience size. It's also about the caliber of artists that are actually on the lineup with us. You know, that for me is what I feel most excited about, is more like, hey, my name is on a poster with Sparrow and Barbasa, and with Western and Indian, and with Atmos Black, and with Sauna, right? Like these are just a few of the guys on the lineup, but these guys are all so well respected for their own, you know, everyone's done something unique and cool in the music industry to get onto that poster, right? And so for us, that's the biggest thing, is just to meet these guys, learn about their story, and then obviously for the fans, like who are coming, like we are so grateful that we get to play our music and give them a great experience.
Yeah. 100%. Beautiful.
Anything else to add,
I'm so
Daz?
excited for it.
No, I mean, Rumours Festival for sure, but there's a lot of good ones like Afro Ibiza, which is this on the 20th. That's coming up. There's another festival towards the end of May that I'm also really excited for. Living Room, I'm particularly excited for because I've heard that that's like the boiler room, so to speak, of Johannesburg. And, you know, me and Craig love a good boiler room kind of vibe. So, there's a few different shows that we're really excited for. But I mean, just in general for the tour, like, you know, every show I'm sure will be great. And we're just here for the process, and, you know, the shows is one part of it, but then even just meeting the locals and understanding the scene and working with other producers, like it's the whole package that we're excited for.
No, 100%. And I feel like as well, like you guys don't feel, I don't know if it's on your side, but like I don't feel like you guys have to rush anything. You know what I mean? Like you've given yourself a long amount or a decent amount of time here, and good enough amount of time to get to know people, also get to know the industry, the scene, and like understand how things move here. But also, that being said, you guys now are based in LA.
We're kind of homeless at the moment. Our home base is now Australia. So we left LA and we went back to Australia. So we spent between November and when we came here, so 4 or 5 months in Sydney. And I think now we're going to make Australia will be the home base. But, you know, we regularly want to be playing in Los Angeles, and, you know, hopefully South Africa, we can make it more of a regular thing. But our family's from Sydney. So we kind of feel like we're at the point where to really grow internationally, the music has to take over. So it's not so much about moving around the world, which is what we've done to date, and living in a country and then breaking into the scene that way. It has to come from the music. So we're betting everything on the fact that the music will hopefully open up doors. And that's why the music now is the biggest focus.
Home wherever the heart is.
Yeah.
Wherever the heart is, you know? But yeah, no, I mean, we've traveled the last couple of years, lived in a bunch of different cities, and all of those experiences have contributed to where we are today. And, you know,
everything has a story.
I'm confident that we'll spend the rest of the year like traveling, like that's what it's looking like based on everything that's going on. So from here, we'll go to LA and then back to Australia, then to Europe, then back to LA again, and then South Africa again at the end of the year. So yeah, now we're like living wherever the music takes us.
So traveling all over the world, playing music all over the world, where would you guys say is, outside of South Africa, the place where people resonate the most with your sound?
Los Angeles, for sure, because we lived there for 2 years. So we we were one of the few guys doing real authentic Afro house in Los Angeles, which is not a market that is typically known for, being big in terms of Afro. And we were lucky. We got a residency at this club called La Mesa. And so we used to run the Friday nights there, and then we built up like a line of events.
It was called FiNE Fridays, just for the record.
Yeah, it was called FiNE Fridays. But it was just cool because like, we started off with our whatever sound we were playing, and then because everyone kept coming back because we were unique in the market, we were able to build up a following. So like last week we were in Los Angeles to launch Sippy Time, and we did it there because we knew that there was a fan base that would love to come to a Sippy Time event. So that's definitely a market that we love. And the vibes are cool there. Like, it's a great place.
That's beautiful. Did you see any like big changes like from the year that you started to when you were playing now? It's like the increase in people listening to it.
Afro House?
Yeah, because it feels like Afro House now is pushing all limits to this side now. It's like Coachella, it's got a massive stage to it, and then all things like that. So
we've seen it like around the world.
Yeah.
Like we've seen Los Angeles book more Afro House artists. We were living in the Netherlands for 6 months, and they love Afro House over there. Like we watched like Inunapa come, Cairo came there. Like even in Australia, since we've been back, Inunapa was just there. We played with Temba. Now Cairo is coming. I think at the end of this month, he's playing in Australia. We're very close with these guys called the Movement Crew in Australia, and they're bringing out all the shout out to them because they're really pioneering the Afro House scene in Australia and New Zealand. And we know what they have planned for the end of the year. They're doing something in November that has never been done in the history of Afro House in Australia.
Even Asia, for that matter.
Even Asia, like I don't think they've ever seen a lineup like this for Afro House before. So like we can see Afro House paving its way around the world literally in front of our eyes. So it's crazy.
Yeah, 100%. And like for it to be a genre that you guys are so passionate about as well, like watching everybody's contribution, but also like being like our contribution as well, like creating a statement with it as well.
Yeah. Exactly.
We feel blessed more than anything else, to be part of such, I want to call it a very elegant and classy genre, because Afro House really, like even producing it, it's very sophisticated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The fact that such a sophisticated genre, which has been so unknown for a long time, the fact that it's going global, it really speaks volumes about the quality of music and also the way that people are adapting to the different cultures from around the world. Yeah. America specifically has been predominantly, like, I'm going to use this in quotation marks, EDM, for however anyone can remember. 100%. But now, like, you're starting to see organic house, Afro house, indie dance, and all these other genres which maybe have only been popular in specific regions now being played all over. And I think that's a great thing for the music world. I think music is the one thing that no matter what language you speak, everybody can feel and relate to. The vibe, the rhythm, the melody, the hook. Even if you don't know the language. No. But if you love that song, hey, you can vibe to it.
I want to shout out the Afro House community as well, because I think that we couldn't be doing what we're doing today if guys didn't work together. Yeah. And we've seen it like all around the world where, people open up doors for each other. Vocalists collaborate with producers. DJs introduce guys to their connections overseas. Like, it's through pure grit and determination that Afro House, and then obviously the likes of the big guys, Black Coffee, Temba, Shimza, these guys have paved the way. But it's a very collaborative genre, so to speak. And from what we've heard, it's a lot more collaborative than other genres. So I think shout out to the whole Afro community for building a global genre.
100%.
That's beautiful. I think it's nice because I think it was not small, but it's very tight knit. Yeah. And then I imagine now it's just extended into around the world to say like, we're here for each other, we're here to help each other. We'll succeed basically.
Yeah. And it's interesting. We're saying, the idea of we're here for each other. We personally believe that the music industry is big enough that there's basically enough pie for everyone to eat. Yeah. We as artists, we don't believe that anyone should compete with anyone else, because every artist that is actually successful got there because their sound is unique. It's not like you can compare two artists and say, hey, these two guys sound exactly the same. And there's enough events and money and people and place in the world to play that. Really, if you're a good quality human being and you do the right marketing, and obviously the music is good and everything else, like there is a place for everyone in this world to be successful. Yeah. And the only difference between, the big guys and the little guys is really your own personal ambitions and how far and how much you're willing to sacrifice to get to where you want to be. because not everybody needs to be at the top. Not everybody wants to be. You know, some people are just happy being your semi-professional international touring DJs because maybe they want to spend more time with their family, and that's what's most important to them. For us, we're shooting for the top. You know, and it's just, we pour our blood, sweat, and tears into this every single day behind the scenes, that we didn't just get here to get here. We are continuously just trying to move forward day by day, release by release. And I don't know, at some point we'll feel like we've made it. You know, how big that is, I don't know, but we're loving and
you hope. It's like, oh,
yeah,
always going to be striving.
Yeah.
What's one of the most, also not underrated, but one of the hardest things you've had to go through while doing all this that people will never really see? And so it's like one of the behind the scenes gripes.
I would say it's the production side of things, because it's really not easy to produce music, especially if you want it to be at a level that is competitive globally. And what people see on Instagram a lot of the time is you playing shows and doing fun stuff, but they don't see the hundreds of hours that you spend just refining your craft behind the scenes. And in reality, without the production side, you're very limited if you're just being a DJ. It doesn't mean you can't make it, but like, you know, you have to have your own music to be able to get there. So it's the graft behind the scenes. I think that's like what a lot of people don't really get to see.
Yeah.
Just to add to that, the other thing as well is that it's very difficult to actually see the progression that you're making. Like, how do you measure your success? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like if I do X, then Y will happen, and there's my growth that I've made. In this industry, you could put out 20 releases and nothing could come from it. Because your success is purely defined by the perception of everyone else outside of your world. And there's days like where we wake up and we go, like, damn, bro, like, you know, like, it's been 6 months now. How have we actually progressed in the last 6 months? And then boom, one day you wake up and you'll see, so-and-so just played your track in this place. You'll be like, no, we've made some progress. Do you know what I mean? Like, we've really learned to appreciate the little wins,
the small
as part of the journey, because otherwise, it's very difficult to know how far you've progressed, but you just take every little bit of success day by day and you remember why you do what you do and you just keep doing it.
To tell you guys a story, like at the beginning, you know, our parents asked us when we were like, okay, we want to do music professionally. They're like, so how long do you give yourself before you decide that like you haven't made it, so you need to call it quits? Because the alternative is always a traditional career. Yeah. And it's the biggest dilemma because like, you know, there's no like secret recipe to being successful in music. No one knows what the game plan is. So it's like a constant also mental challenge of like, how far do you go before you call it quits? Luckily, we've had very supportive parents and you latch onto these small wins and that's what keeps you going. But, you know, these are some of the things that you just have to think about that maybe people don't realize.
Exactly, yeah. I feel like being in like a creative space in any industry, like in arts, entertainment, all of that, there is this like underlying, I feel like, relatability that everybody has where it's like, bro, do you know what you're doing? Not really, no. But like, I'm going to keep doing it until we
honestly,
get there.
That's it. Like, that's why you got to surround yourself by people that you can relate to, that support you. That's something cool about LA because it is the home of entertainment. So like, there's guys there that like, they genuinely believe they're in the next superstar. And, you know, I'm sure some of them are, right? But I take my hat off, like, just to having the courage to think big. And it's that kind of vibes that keeps you going.
Yeah, but it also comes down to obsession. Like, you have to be obsessed with what you're doing. Because if you aren't obsessed, you just won't put in the level of graft that's required to get to where you want to be. You'll end up just falling somewhere short. And that short may be okay with you. But, like, when we were in the Netherlands, there was one night we came home and we had like a 6-hour conversation. And in our head for the last 6 hours, we were like, can I see myself doing corporate? Can I see myself doing this? And every question we asked ourselves, it came back to us no. Yeah. And like, I was like, dude, we have no other choice. Like, doesn't matter what we think. Like, this is our destiny. Like, if I can't think of myself doing, and it's not that we were forced, right? But it's more just what makes us happy? What makes us get up in the morning? And doing this and sharing our music with the world and being able to travel and to meet new people and to have this experience, even with you guys here in this room, is things that you just cannot get if you don't do what you love. Because when you love what you do, you'll never work a day.
We
through
needed
the
you
days.
on Monday.
we were on that 6-hour conversation as well
Yeah.
on Monday, where it's literally like, do you want to do government? It's like, I don't.
I'm trying to make money.
But the money can't be the driving factor. You know, you just mentioned money, but money wasn't. It's never been the driving factor for us.
No.
You know, money will always be a byproduct of your success, but the only way you be successful is by being passionate and obsessive, and obviously good at what you do as well. And everything works hand in hand together.
I always find that like such an interesting like angle, because for me it's one of those ones where like obviously we've been doing this for what, like 3 years, coming up on 3 years now, and it's one of those ones where we want to make it like our full time. We want to put everything that we have in it, because we're putting as much as we physically are able to do right now. But if money comes with it, then the span increases like tenfold if it's like the only thing you're doing. I'm sure like when you guys were working in like corporate and things like that, you also saw it as a thing of my attention is being divided and I don't want it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what motivates you as well, because you're so motivated to get to the point where you can do it full time. And, you know, like we all live in the real world, right? So we all have to, in reality, be able to put food on the table and have money coming in. So it's not an easy thing to do. And there's no, like, I guess, one way to kind of navigate. But you mentioned it before, like if you're really obsessed, and all creatives, you know, share the same thing. Like we're delusional in a way. We just keep going and that's it.
100%. But it's a beautiful thing, because if not, then we wouldn't be in this room today with you guys. And
Absolutely.
Exactly.
vice versa. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're lucky that we have each other, because I think it makes a big difference. Like we've said to each other before, like if one of us was just doing it solo, it's that much more harder to just move across the world. You know, like if we move to a different place, like at least you can share rent. You know, at least you're not having to go find a roommate to live in an apartment with. You know, there's two of you to go find a new employer or whatever. So it makes it easier having two of us, and we also motivate each other. And one person's like, yeah, let's move to Netherlands, and then boom, next minute we're moving to the Netherlands. You know,
Sometimes you need a bit of a push as well. Like I can recall so many memories of us in Melbourne, like literally peak lockdown, and I said to Dan, I was like, dude, let's go to LA. Dude, let's go to LA. And he'd be like, no, man, what are you talking about? Like, I'm like, no, let's go to LA. And I just kept bugging him. And then eventually he was like, Craig, let's go to LA. I'm like, yeah, yeah, let's go to LA. You know, so like we what's nice about our relationship is that we are both really supportive, and we're crazy enough to like believe that we actually can do this, and we are doing this. But at the same time, you know, there's always going to be one of us that's going to be slightly more realistic and go like, no, actually, hold on, slow down for a second, you know. So every decision that we've made has been, I'd like to say every decision we've made in the last 7, 8, 9, 10 years have been really strategic and calculated, which has also helped us to get to where we are.
Exactly. It's so interesting. Like you guys also like literally family, like having like the person you grew up with by your side, like through all the hardships and like all the wild, crazy decisions and things like that. Like,
yeah, for sure.
What's helped though is that, you know, we do have a corporate background. We do have university degrees as well. So we didn't take the traditional path of, I would say, when I say most creatives, like our parents actually said to us, hey guys, listen, you're free to do what you want in your life. We'll support you with whatever you do. But just make sure you have a university degree so that basically if things don't go to plan, you've got something to fall back on. And I feel like that experience of going through university and our business acumen has really shaped the way that we've envisioned the world. And we've always had a safety net. Like for the last pretty much our entire career, we've actually always maintained a corporate job in conjunction with doing music. So we've always had a fail-safe. And I think that's also what's helped us be successful, is because there hasn't been pressure on us to succeed. It's just we've maintained the corporate job, we've made decisions. That's what's helped us move around the world to all these different cities and countries and that we've lived in. It's helped fund a lot of our experiences, and it's all these things combined that have led to our journey to where we are today.
Yeah, because you can just focus on the love for everything you have for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so we're gonna get into this cheeky little segment we have here on Vaabs podcast. It's that time of the show, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna get into your Vaab checks. David, tell the good people
I guess I know.
after so long what a Vaab check is.
Vibe check is essentially we give our guests good vibes, bad vibes, mid vibes question. You guys can answer it. You don't have to elaborate, but it's always beautiful if you do. So Lev's ask question, and then you can just say good vibes, bad vibes, or even mid vibes, because Sometimes it's a nice middle ground.
And feel free to explain it because David often says, one word is fine. And then I'm like, that's not why we did this.
Okay.
You're right, yes.
Yeah,
You're allowed to do what you
let's
want.
go.
Cool. So the first vibe check is vibe check on jolling in South Africa. Or partying. I don't know how much slang of South Africa you guys.
No, we know what jolling is for sure.
On the chores is another one that we know.
On the chos.
On the chores, yeah.
Is that you?
No. If you listen to this podcast, you know who you are.
You want to go, Craig?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I personally think the vibes in South Africa are epic. I think if there's one thing South Africa isn't short of, it's jolling.
Yeah.
And
Love a business.
and I mean that in the best way. Like, it doesn't matter whether you're having a Sunday braai with your mates, like, there's always something to do, people to hang out with, places to go. Like 7 nights a week, you could be doing something. So, I think if we want to categorize jolling into just nightlife, I still think there's a lot of nightlife. There's so many venues, and because there's so much talent, there's so many outlets that you could go and experience. Like, we went to Balcony we went to the Irish pub on Saturday night. We went to Balcony, and I didn't even know who the DJ was that was playing, but they were a vibe.
Yeah.
And the vibe in the room was epic. Everyone was just jolling to Amapiano, and like, I was like, I didn't even know this place existed, but the vibes are great.
So good vibes.
Yeah,
is
good
the
vibes.
Yeah. Good vibes. And yourself?
Good vibes for sure. I mean, it doesn't matter where you go. Everyone's super warm, super welcoming. We've been to a couple different parties already, and they were amazing vibes. So yeah, hats off to South Africa.
Hats off to South Africa.
We
Not
try.
scared, man. Not
Love a
scared to
beza.
enjoy. You love a beza.
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't love a beza? Okay, next vibe check. We have to do this. It's for a friend. They love it when we mention their city. But vibe check on Cape Town.
Good vibes.
Bad vibes. Yeah.
Good vibes for sure. We went to Cape Town for like maybe 7 years on holiday. And fair enough, we went in like the December, January period. So like we were going to like Kinky Summer Music Festival. We were going to the thing on New Year's Day, which is like one of the best
Pasha.
parties. Pasha New Year's
Sexy
Day.
Groovy Love.
Sexy Groovy Love.
Are
Cabo
you
Beach
involved
Club, which
in it
used to be
all?
like shimmies, like mad vibes. Like Cape Town is one of these spots to be in December, January. So yeah, love it.
Yeah, I agree. Good vibes only.
Good vibes only.
Yeah.
If you had to pick a preference, because we've now
No, we're
established
not going to
ourselves.
ask them which they prefer.
Come on, hit us.
Did you see how elated
Cape
they
Town
were
or
speaking
Joburg?
about Cape
Preference on
Town?
Joburg or Cape Town?
We're not going to win it.
I'm going to say that the time of year is going to determine and
Okay.
context to the good vibes.
Good
because,
save.
That's a good
Gregor.
answer.
You know-
that's
you know,
a
like-
safe one.
Listen, as someone who loves the beach, you can't beat like going to Clifton Fourth Beach and watching Corona Sunsets Festival happen on the beach, right? Like you cannot get that in Joburg.
Yeah.
So I think depending on the event and the time of year, both cities can be fantastic. And the reality is that any time of the year, because the weather is so good in South Africa, you can have good and bad events in both cities. It just depends on who's putting the event on and how it's organized is really going to determine the vibes more than anything else.
Yeah, 100%.
That's a solid one. That's a safety on.
So this isn't necessarily a vibe check, but open air or club jaws?
I think it comes down to the actual location again for me. Like for example, like like Black Coffee Circle set was indoors, right? Sekle Circle. I don't know how you guys from around the world say. I just call it circle.
I like circles well because
Right,
circle
cool.
sounds
And
hectic.
and I think what's awesome about indoor venues is that you have a lot more control over the production, and you can
Yeah,
also
fair enough.
have a lot more certainty about the overall outcome of an event. For an example, you know that whether it rains or not, your event is still going to go ahead and there's going to be no issues with that. So, I think those factors, those external factors for me is what would make a difference. But either one can be great depending on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same. Good vibes for both. Like, there's nothing more special than playing, obviously, like a big, mad, open air kind of festival thing. But then there's also like something incredibly amazing about being in a packed boiler room style club where if the vibe is there and people are loving it and there's good production, like either of them could be epic. So it's more about the crowd, and you'd always rather play to like one person that actually loves what you do versus 1,000 people that don't really have appreciation for the sound.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like playing such a specific sound, like as Afro, do you ever feel like you spend a lot of time having to win over a crowd, or do you only
For
play
sure.
in events where, because I can't imagine that the Australian Afro scene is that massive.
The more you
Comparatively,
grow, you definitely get booked more for your sound, but there's still a massive education aspect we feel like to what we do. And I'll give you an example. Like we know if we play in Los Angeles, as much as I wish that they loved the authentic Afro House sound, we feel the need almost to like add a bit more of a commercial spin, or maybe like put a commercial a cappella, something that they can relate to on top of an Afro House song. So you still have to like kind of vibe check the room, so to speak, and tailor your set. But like we definitely feel like we still are having to educate, you know, a lot of the crowds that we play to, because especially in today's world where like hats off to kind of music, right, as an example, but there's a lot of guys in this world that think that Afro House is the kind of music sound. And they're almost like missing a lot of the authentic kind of stuff that's coming out of South Africa, as an example. So yeah, you have to definitely educate and, you know, tailor stuff as you go.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's nice because it's like it proves that you guys are great producers and as well DJs in that sense, where it's like you can read the crowd and also push them to where you need to be. So it's like wean them off melodic into the Afro House.
There's also a skill involved in, you know, reading the crowd is one thing, but also I think one of the most important factors that sometimes gets overlooked is actually the order in which you play your songs and the way that you create your sets. For us, we view sets as storytelling, right? So think of it as like a roller coaster. You know, you start off slow, you build up some tension, then you get, you know, this downward energy that's just adrenaline's pumping, it's awesome, and then you got to tone it back a bit, and it's a constant up and down. And I feel like that is part of what curates the vibe. Like, you know, often when we play sets, you know, not to toot our own horns, but it even happened on Sunday at Katie's Palace. There was at least 3 people that came up to us and said, that was one of the best sets I've ever watched, right? And for us, it was just a normal set, but I guess to the audience, you know, like it was a really awesome thing for them. And we love that we can do that for people. And production is one thing, but it's a whole nother skill to firstly play and DJ well, but then in addition to that, curating the right set, the right vibes, and then doing it well live in front of an audience.
But it's a learning experience, right? Like honestly, like we don't feel like we're like at the top of the Afro House scene or anything like that.
Far
like
from it.
we just feel like we're just doing our thing and we're just focused on ourselves. And do we have so much to learn? Absolutely. You know what I mean? Like there's so much room to grow. But yeah, we're just grateful for like obviously being able to do what we do now, and we'll continue to grow like every other person's done for the rest of our career.
It's a nice way to look at it as well. Where it's like you can always be better, but you're super happy with how you're doing things.
Yeah, you can't be complacent because like there's so many talented people in this world, you know, so you got to just keep hustling, and you got to have that appetite for growth and be open to feedback.
You guys spoke now about like obviously curating that experience, the highs and lows of a set. I feel like I want to ask, because we were speaking about it before you guys got here, but a cheeky bonus vibe check. Oh, we never do that.
Love a bonus.
Vibe check on hour-long sets. Good vibes, bad vibes?
I think there's a time and there's a place for an hour-long set. Like I totally understand that, hey, if you've got, you know, a festival or something where you have to keep a specific time, like I understand that there's a place for that. On the artist side, you know, it's also very difficult to tell the right story when realistically in an hour set, you can maybe squeeze in anything from 6 to 10 tracks, depending on whether you're playing them all the way through or not. So I think the longer that you give someone an opportunity to play, the more expressive they can be in how they curate that vibe and that experience for the audience. Not to say that it can't be done, but you know, you can only do so much in a certain amount of time. So the more time we have, the more opportunities we have to truly make it special.
I want to go mid vibes like on this as well, because there's definitely, like as Craig said, a time and a place, but ideally if we could play for an hour and a half or 2 hours, it's better than 1 hour for sure.
Yeah, good books aren't short kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I only like realized it today when we were speaking about it, because obviously like we listen to a lot of like drum and bass as well, and we watched one of our friends play a 3 hour and 45 minute long set on Saturday. And thinking about all the songs that you have to run through, like I was just like, how do you create an experience that the people will resonate with when it's like you're almost just trying to get through everything? But like, I don't know, there was just something so special about it. So like thinking about like Afro now, the same thing. Like if you had to play like a 3 hour, 45 minute set, it's the same people, the same learning. Because like the crowd is almost like, the relationship is almost like, I want to say, what is it?
Symbiotic?
Oh, symbiotic.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you guys an example. Like we were in LA last week, and this is the second time we've done it, where we've done a 5 hour set. And what's so epic about it, obviously you're exhausted by the end, but what's epic about it is that you feel like you can curate the crowd and you can get them exactly where you kind of want, because you're telling a massive story, you know, like, you're the master puppeteer. So it's cool. Like, if you can do a longer set, like, you can really take people on a journey. So it is amazing.
I think it's nice as well, the feeling that comes with it. It's like they're all not growing together, but it's like everyone's flowing together. It's like in an ocean there. It's like it becomes a family affair almost.
Yeah. Or like also like another thing, and like, obviously I don't mean to like knock anyone, but like if you do have a 5-hour set, you have like a lot of control versus like if there's an opening DJ and then you come on after. You know, sometimes obviously you can't control what the opening DJ plays, and there is a spillover effect if they, for whatever reason, didn't do a great job. Like, that almost spills over into your set. So when you're doing a longer one, you just feel like you can control the whole thing. You can play the function of like an opener and a closer, basically.
There's nothing worse than when you're playing headline slot at an event, and the guy that's playing before you, or girl, or they, whatever they want to refer to themselves as, because it's 2024. You know, they come and they put on like the top 10 biggest tracks that they can think of in that genre. And then you go like, like, bro, the crowd's ready to go home before we even stood on the decks. Like,
The crowd's tired.
but on that question, and you know, maybe we'll touch on this at a different point, but I think that has to, like, I think that there's a responsibility to the event organizers and the promoters that are running those events to ensure that they select the right DJs for the time slot, and that, you know, they do let them know, hey, these are the, you know, the I don't want to call it boundaries because there's no boundaries, but hey, these are the things that you need to be aware of. You know, because it just hurts the overall outcome of the event when the crowd is already tired, or all the big tracks have been played already, and you're like, okay, like, now what?
And it's crucial for everyone. Like, maybe people don't realize, but like, if an opening DJ really did a bad job and then caused a bunch of the crowd to leave, that means that your venue that night is not going to make bar spend. And that could significantly affect the profitability of an event, you know. So it's such a crucial role, which often goes overlooked. Yeah, exactly. And if you can do an amazing opening set, like, it will change your life from a DJ perspective. Like, everyone's basically got to, I feel like, learn that skill, because once you understand it, like, then you really know how to play a great headline set, you know. So like, it all, you just have to serve your time, and everything just adds up to, like, you know, the overall product.
And we actually experience this. Like, I will tell you point blank, we, in our early stages, when we were living overseas, we made the fatal error of going too big very early. And we actually burnt some relationships that we had with people because of it. And we never got booked for any events that these guys did again because of what we did. Now, obviously, we learned the hard way, you know, but like, yeah.
And that's fine, and, you know, like, it's going to happen to everyone.
Live and learn.
But yeah, it's all a learning experience. You take it on the chin, and then you change for next time, and that's what makes you grow.
Yeah.
100%. We did an interview last year with like one of our big Afro Tech DJs here, Son of Dennis, and he was saying it's almost like everybody in the like lineup has their own job in telling the story. So like the story of a night happens across every single DJ, and every single DJ has their own chapter to tell their part of the story, but it still needs to all come together in the bigger part. He tells it better.
Yeah, no, but it's true.
I think the genre as well, like multi-genre events can often be problematic for the same reason.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, when you've got like someone that's playing like, let's call it progressive house or tech house, that's, you know, at 125 to like 133 BPM. And then you have Afro come on directly after that. Like, sure, for the right tracks, they can still sound equally as energetic, even at a lower BPM. But it, you know, it's about even picking the right DJs and the genres to play at the right set times is really important. And again, it just falls back onto the organization of the event.
Yeah. I think often a problem as well with some of the events here, and I said it almost feels like they just pick the name and then don't think about anything else, because it's like what you're saying, as an event, there's a bigger picture rather than just the arts there, and it feels like that you have to pick the right artist and the right type of time for them as well.
Yeah. That's why I also like, it's cool, because as you grow bigger, you obviously start to get in with the more experienced promoters. But like, I think a lot of like event organizers fall short in the early days because, and fair enough, like, it kind of makes sense when you think about it, but like, they try fill the venue based on booking DJs that can bring their friends. And then the problem with that is that quite often, because you're not booking artists based on a sound, sure, your venue is full, but the longevity of your event is like short term because people don't come to your event and leave and go, wow, that was amazing, because you know the DJs generally don't like mesh that well together. So like I would say that you're always better off like if you can focus in on a certain sound, like let's say you want to do Afro house events, and then just book really good Afro DJs, and sure, like they need to be able to bring a crowd, but then also have appreciation for guys that have a great sound, and then find that like middle balance, so to speak.
No. I think as well as an event organizer, it's like you want people to say that the experience was bigger than anything rather than the sound of it all.
And long term, like that's what will carry you. If you have great music and people have a great time, like sure, maybe you won't have 100 people at the start, but like long term, like with the right marketing and good exposure and then good DJs, you'll build a brand for your event.
There it is.
Yeah. After throwing your FiNE Fridays in LA, do you guys also now have the itch to like do events as well, or is it sticking to the music, sticking to the passion?
I think through Sippy Time, we'll definitely be doing label showcases. That goes without saying, because obviously as the label and the brand grows and we obviously sign more artists to it, you know, and we start to release with more artists, it's going to become a much larger brand than it is currently. And when it reaches critical mass, put it that way, then absolutely we want to be doing our own Sippy Time events where we'll bring all the artists and you know, showcase them and the talent and things like that and go around the world doing different things. But on a personal level, as FiNE, we are purely focused on building our personal brands.
Yeah.
You know, we don't really want to throw events because our passion is creating music, releasing that music, and then obviously playing that music to the world. And we prefer to be artists as opposed to event organizers.
I think it's nice because you can just focus on giving people what they want. Or not what they want, but what you want them to hear as well.
Exactly, like keeping your focus. Like I feel like through this entire interview, like one thing that stays certain with the way that you guys speak is like it's the music first before anything else. Like it's like we want to push the music, we want to push ourselves. Like Sippy Time is here so that the music can be better, or like we do these DJ sets, these tours, this networking, so that the music can progress through.
100%.
Like that's a very beautiful message.
And a lot of it comes down to time as well. Like it really does take like hard work to actually throw events. And then time is the one thing that like we feel we don't have enough of, because there's always an alternative. And I think this is also why like, you know, DJs have to be selective about at some point like the shows that they take on, because the alternative to doing a DJ set and then potentially being a bit hungover the next day is to spend the night in and work on music, which long term will open up 10 DJ sets for you. You know, so like it's always like there's a time aspect to it, and just maximizing your time.
And prioritizing.
Yeah, exactly.
100%. Yeah. Guys, thank you so much for coming through.
We appreciate you, boys.
Thank you for having us. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, the helicopter has landed, ladies and gentlemen.
Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. I've been Dave for Lebs and Dill. This is Vaabs Podcast. We've been at Real Global Productions. Thank you, Fran.
And we're fine.
Thank you, guys.
We're fine.
This has been awesome.
Thank you so much, man. We're super excited. Where can the people find you guys?
So Follow the FiNE is our Instagram handle. I would say that's the easiest starting point because there's links to everything on there. So all of our shows, everything is going to be posted there. You know, we're here for the next, couple of weeks, 2 months exactly. And there's so much going on and we're really excited to meet everyone that's here, the event promoters, the fans, and most importantly, we're here for the vibes.
Yes, boy.
Thank you so much, everybody. And as always,
keep vibing.